Alrighty, folks, welcome into Chalk Talk Social. It is Friday, January 16th, and today we got a Cleveland Browns fan joining us. Not someone in the playoffs, but you know what? It's the Browns. They got a lot of stuff to talk about. They're looking for a new head coach. They got a quarterback thing going on per usual. So right in territory for the Browns. And now they got, some other things happen. We're going to play a little game of cut three, keep three with the fan. And of course, it is the Friday. So we got some news thing to talk about. Of course, NFL coaches are coming up with more things happening around the league with the coaching carousel. But you'll notice if you're watching, our guy Iman, about his money, about his business, but his business is elsewhere today. He's got a coach track. So we got Joey stepping in. Joey, what's going on, man? How we doing?
I'm doing great. I'm still basking in the beauty of my Bears win that I didn't get to talk to you about on Monday. So
I was hoping you weren't going to say anything, you son of a bitch.
But no, all is good. It's playoff time here in Chicago, which is ridiculously rare, and it's like literally awoken the city. And we're so cold and horrible winter, and it's just like brought this spark. So I'm drinking the Kool-Aid right now and gonna try to understand how many layers I have to wear on Sunday to survive.
Meanwhile, I'm in absolute hell in Green Bay having, there's a lot of debate over right now. Like, will the Packers keep Matt LaFleur? Will they not? Whatever they do. One of the Packers guys dropped a great article on like maybe the real problem here is the fact that their assistant coaching staff is full of a bunch of dudes who are completely inexperienced and especially not even coaching positions that they know best, like assistant O-line coaches working with receivers and all of these things. And then just like in terms of all the assistant playoff coaches, the Packers, a draft and developed team, mind you, have the least developed assistant coaching staff. And so that's been a whole thing.
About right.
Yeah. I mean, classic. Yeah, surely that whole strategy should work, and we've seen the results of it. So that's been a huge thing in Packers world since that tragic day where everything blew up in our face. But yeah, so that's it. So that's all we're gonna say about Packers Bears today. I think that's a good starting and stopping point. Let's see.
Yeah.
You weren't here. Did you have any? You have 1 minute. Because I can't. My ears are gonna freaking bleed. I'll give you like 30 seconds to say whatever you want to say on the Bears if you have anything.
That was insane. Again, a game against the Packers where you're like, oh my God, here we go again. Like, this is it. Like, they've literally shit the bed and we got nothing. And then the Pope or whatever magic you want to believe in brought them back. And for your listening pleasure, I just want to run through the score because I wrote it down.
Oh.
21-6 lead, 13:55 left in the fourth. 21-9, 10:50 left. 21-16, 8:14 left. 27-16, 4:20 left. 27-24, 4:18 left. And then 31-27 with 1:36 left.
Seems like you didn't have to do that, but I'm glad you got it off your chest.
It's not impossible because it happened, but it's impossible what happened. It absolutely was impossible how they did that. And Caleb Williams on those throws, man, we got lucky enough that those scoring drives were on our side of the field where our seats are. So it was just right in front of us, beautiful.
That's sick. All right, that's sick.
It was sweet. And then the DJ Moore touchdown was going that way too, and it was just an unreal atmosphere. But it was a nervous excited, right? Because the Bears haven't been there in a while. So I think this weekend will be kind of playing with house money. It's a little more like excited, but not as nervous because the Rams are tough. I don't know if they can play in this weather, but we shall see. But it was an absolute blast, and I'm sorry. I feel bad for you, but I get this once every 50 years, so I'm taking it.
No, it's funny, and it feels like a miracle to you, but me and my buddy sitting there watching is like, well, we've seen this before. It was no such new thing in our world. We've just been watching great quarterbacks for 20 years. There's always a reason why it never happens, and it's always tragic, and it's always like the most tragic, heartbreaking, like rip your throat out type of loss. It's never just peaceful. It's never a peaceful stabbing of the heart. It is you're going to die a long, painful death, and you're going to love it. So that's been my whole life since a Pack. Besides 1 year that, again, I told Iman, I'm pretty sure we sold our soul for that 1 year, and this is the payoff. You don't have special teams anymore, and it's going to always collapse in the worst possible way. It's never nice. So, yeah, it's great. Anyways.
And just remember the Bears only led the Packers in 3 games for like a minute 40.
I didn't even think it was all. It's all, yeah, it's pathetic. It's as embarrassing as it gets. But all right, let's go into the Browns. And enough of this garbage that, it's still it's a horror dream. I haven't woke up from it yet. But let's bring into our Browns fan. This week we got our guy Mac join the show. Mac, what is going on? How we doing?
I'm just chuckling backstage because you're talking about pain and suffering and and embarrassing and living with this awful thing my entire life, and I'm just kind of like sitting there and I'm like, yeah, no, you guys sold your soul for a Super Bowl. We sold ours for a playoff win that nobody went to because the entire world was burning down. So
yeah. I completely forgot who we had backstage, and now I feel bad about saying everything I said about them. Complaining about being a competent football team.
It's okay, Mac. I understand your pain. I'm normally in your shoes with our quarterback history here. It's the Bears and the Browns with 30-plus guys in less years, so I get it.
I really wanted Caleb to break that 4,000-yard record. I really did. Now it would have looked even worse because then the Browns would be the last team to have a quarterback throw for 4,000 yards because that was Brian Sipe in 1981. Yes, that's how long it's been. So I get it.
Man. Yeah. That's the only thing we have is another year of Bears not having a 4,000-yard passer. At least we have that going for us. But all right, Mac, again, Browns fan. We can just, I guess, start on the quarterbacks. I mean, before we really get into the show, what are your kind of just season takeaways on Shedeur? Where do you stand with that whole thing? That's the first thing we got to know.
It's it's so 50-50. For me, I believe in the talent. I believe in the flashes. There is a lot of good with also a lot of bad. But again, my thing is, it's really tough to evaluate Shedeur Sanders this year. It is. It almost kind of feels impossible because, by the time that week 18 rolled around, he has his fourth string left tackle because everybody forgets how Cam Robinson came into the picture because Cam Robinson got here because Cornelius Lucas, their swing tackle, their backup guy, was leading the league in pressures despite only starting 5 games. So they had to replace him, which, by the way, they plucked Cam Robinson off the bench in Houston. So he wasn't even really a starter. You have Joel Bitonio, who he had a great season, but there's times on film where you see that he just doesn't have it left in the tank. Ethan Poshik, who ended up blowing out his Achilles. God bless Luke Whippler, but he struggles against, 330-pound nose tackles. On the right guard, Wyatt Teller had a decent year and then ended up getting mysteriously benched. Why? I don't know. Nobody in Cleveland knows. I'm not even sure that, Carly Teller, his wife knows. And then, right tackle, we gave all that money to Jack Conklin only for him to be on and off and then ultimately, be out for the rest of the season once again. And fifth string offensive tackle, KT Leviston, started a bunch of games, even though he was the developmental tackle. He was not supposed to play this year. So I do feel bad criticizing the guy because he's clearly and you see this a lot
for a reason.
Yeah, exactly. So you have that, and then the wide receiver room's just a mess. Jerry Jeudy with Jameis Winston versus Jerry Jeudy with everyone else seems to just be a common theme when I've watched him this year. Cedric Tillman didn't make the jump and was injured. Isaiah Bond showed a bunch of flashes. I mean, my point is here, it's not excuses. It's just the reality of we're criticizing this guy for not being able to play in structure. But what is the structure? Everybody's arguing EPA, expected points average. But what is supposed to be expected? What is the expectation when you're rolling him out? With this group. So
any quarterback would have failed. Any quarterback would have failed.
Yeah. And you can look at Joe Flacco. It was night and day from when he left Cleveland. And it was the most maddening thing ever. I felt like I was in a metaphorical straitjacket, laughing myself to sleep watching that Thursday night game. The second I saw that they were wearing the all whites, and I'm like, this has the script for the Browns to be embarrassing tonight, and they're not even playing.
That's tough. I mean, there's good. I mean, I know that Shador's going to go in with an opportunity to be the starter next year. Who even the hell knows with Deshaun Watson? And I'm not saying he's good or should be starting, but like literally who the hell knows with that whole thing? That's another set your franchise back 10 years type of thing. That's all been. They're going to probably draft somebody, but they got a head coaching vacancy. Let's start there. Obviously they have requested, who have they requested?
So they've interviewed so far Jim Schwartz, Tommy Rees, Mike McDaniel,
Udinski. That's the guy I'm thinking of.
Yes. He's on the he's on the schedule. I believe he's getting interviewed on Saturday. It's either tomorrow or Saturday. But they did interview with Aiden Dirty, the Seattle's defensive coordinator, Dan Pitcher, Cincinnati's offensive coordinator, Todd Monken, Nate Shieldhouse, the Rams passing game coordinator, Jesse Minter, Chargers DC, Grant Udinski, and Chris Shula, who is the Rams DC. Yep. They just put in a request for him yesterday.
Woo. Not taking out any stops. So that for me personally, if you need a quarterback, you try to figure out quarterback, this guy's got to be offensive. I mean, I've never been a fan of defensive head coaches unless you got an established quarterback and either you already got an OC who's staying there, he's good, can call plays, but you got to nail that OC hire otherwise. So for me, let's just cut that list in half. I'm assuming you probably want an offensive guy as well. You tell me no. I want to know who your favorite is in this situation.
My thing is here, and in my opinion, this class of up and coming offensive minds, I think is probably the weakest that it's been. Now, part of that is just the NFL. The second that an offense coordinator gets hot, he gets an head coaching job. It is what it is. You know, it's a quarterback league, so obviously it's going to be an offensive coach. My problem is that the only guy on this list that has legitimate experience calling plays is Mike McDaniel, right? You have Dan Pitcher, never called plays. That was Zach Taylor once. What's his face left? Oh my gosh, it wasn't Joe Brady. They had an OC before him, but yeah, Dan Pitcher's never called plays. Grant Udinski, he's a great mind. He's an up and coming guy. But
he's been in a big boy role for 3 years. Like he's still super fresh. He's 30. He's 30 years old. This is
exactly. And it's just it's one of those things to where yes, I want an offensive mind, absolutely. But at the end of the day, if somebody's never had experience truly calling plays, why would I want to bring him in to not only call plays, but be the CEO of my football team? I can't do that. And then everybody's arguing, okay, well, hire him as head coach and then hire somebody else at OC. Why would you bring him in as an offensive mind and have him not call plays? It doesn't make any sense. 100%. So for me, and I know this is a pitch that not a lot of people want to hear, and not a lot of Browns fans, frankly, want to hear, but I think Jim Schwartz is the best guy for it. The defense is already bought in. They've been playing hard the past 2 seasons, despite not being really in any games. A revolving door quarterback, a offensive coach, which a lot of defensive guys were frankly getting sick of, go later on in the year. But yeah, Jim Schwartz, he's got, he's got experience doing it. He took over an 0-16 Lions team and then brought him to the playoffs, 2 years later. So there has to be something said for him having experience. There's also a lot of things kind of behind the scenes for me. A lot of defensive players have been telling the media that, like, hey, he holds us accountable. We really like his coaching style. The players respond to it. There's a lot of, development that's been happening on that side of the ball. I mean, Alex Wright looks completely different than he did his rookie year with Joe Woods. You have Isaiah McGuire that was a ball of clay when he came in. Grant Delpit took a big step. Myles Garrett, there was actually an interview with Jim Schwartz earlier in the year, and he said flat out, Myles Garrett will have his best season yet. And look what happened. I think guys on that side of the ball really respond to it. I think that his hard coaching and holding guys accountable and being frank and being honest I think players really respond to it. And for me, a head coach is all about leadership and identity. If you do, like, yes, you need great schemes. You need a great offensive playbook. Well, here's the great thing about the NFL. Like, I feel like they rapidly develop offensive coordinators. Like, I'd rather keep going through offensive coordinators than have an offensive head coach get hot and then he burns out. Because how many times have we seen that? You know what I mean? Like, look at Zach Taylor in Cincinnati. The only reason why he still has a job is because Mike Brown is cheap and doesn't want to pay out the rest of his contract. So he'd rather just, keep him on staff for a year than spend the money, burn it, and then hire a new guy. So, I just like, it's now you could pitch me Mike McDaniel. I would like.
Well, I was gonna say you just gotta you gotta bank on landing McDaniel as your head coach or as your OC. Yeah. Then I mean, because again, I feel the same exact way about this young coaching thing because there's other guys. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but the Rams pass game coordinator, he's like 35. There's these guys who like don't exactly call plays right now, and they're getting head coaching jobs. And then, so not, like you said, you're getting an offensive guy, but he doesn't even call plays. Now you still got to bank on hiring a good offensive play caller, like pulling in maybe a Brian Dable or a Mike McDaniel, and hoping one that they'll take that role, and two, you're going to be the team that gets him. So it's the same level of risk of like just hiring a defensive coach. So like, what's the point at that point? So I'm kind of with you.
And that's what was interesting to me is like, I feel like Jim Schwartz is kind of that bridge transition coach. It depends. Okay, do you want to invest in that for the next 2 to 3 years and it resets you? Or do you go after the young guy and take that chance and that risk? And that's I think what you just said, Austin, is what I was going to bring up is, okay, it's Jim Schwartz, your guy. Mike McDaniel gets a little humble check here, becomes your OC, and then you see where you're at in 2 or 3 years. I don't know if you're willing to wait that long, but you go, okay, it's kind of resetting him on his offensive clock as well, because I think if you're all bought in on Shedeur and you're needing to build an offense, Jim Schwartz isn't going to maybe get you there, but he can be the bridge to maybe where you want to go. It just depends how patient you want to be. And I get not being patient because it's been a long time.
Yeah.
That's been one of my thoughts too, is with these other guys like McCarthy, someone who's going to be a bridge guy for you, is go somewhere where the quarterback's got to get right, get someone in there who's going to help that quarterback get right, spend 2 years with them. That person leaves. Now you got the quarterback. Now you become a top job in the market because, you built up those 2 years essentially. And now you can go attract the premium talent to lead your team the next 15 years, hopefully, is the idea. And your quarterback, it's not like he went, year to year to year to year with a new system. He went 2 straight years with something, maybe 3, right? And now he's mature enough to probably be able to take on a new system. And, it's not like, like Browns fans and Bears fans, you guys have experienced where it's just constant revolving doors, offensive systems, impossible for your quarterback to get right. I mean, same thing with Jalen Hurts. It's OC after OC after OC after OC. But, 2, 3 years, 3 years probably, you'd probably be fine. Then you're a little bit more matured. But why don't we stay on quarterback? Real quick, natural segue. We kind of started talking about, but so you got Jim Schwartz, a head coach.
Yeah.
Who is his quarterback?
I mean, realistically, I still think that it is Shedeur. As a Browns fan, and I people got upset with me when I tweeted it this morning. Like, hey, you buckle up. They're running him back, and it's not because they're 100% sold on him. They're not. It's still hey, you have to earn your keep around here, which I would prefer. I would love that, because that keeps a player hungry and it's going to make him work harder. And if he is going to earn that spot, he has to get better. So, my thing is, you have to look at this realistically. The Browns, with as many holes as they are, they're not spending the $20 million a year that it's going to take to get a guy like Malik Willis. They don't have the money
Willis
to.
Fan. I love Malik Willis a lot.
and like, I remember him coming out of Liberty, and like, you could see
first round talent.
You could see the arm. You could see the speed. He just needed somebody to refine him. And, Matt LaFleur was the quarterback school that he needed. But like the Browns just don't have that kind of capital to invest in the quarterback. They're going to have to take big swings along the offensive line. Guys like Rasheed Walker and Tyler Lindenbaum are, top high younger guys.
Did you watch the Bears-Packer game? I'm thinking you're going to want to not run Rasheed Walker as your left tackle. If you watch the Bears-Packer game, you might. That's all I'll say. That's all. I'm going to leave it there.
No. And I mean, I get it. He's a younger guy, but that's where the Browns offensive line is at. If that tells you anything.
That's fair.
I
mean, he was good. He struggled this year. He was not the same player they banked on him to be this year. He took a step back, and it went pretty much all the way back towards the end, and especially at the end. He lost himself some money. I'm just saying he's lost himself money this year, and especially at the end, he lost himself some money. He's definitely not coming back in Green Bay. But, I mean, if that's an improvement, like, golly, I can't even imagine.
No, it's pretty bad. But, like, those are, because you look at it, and they're going to, and Jimmy Haslam and Andrew Berry already admitted that they're going to heavily invest assets in the offense. So you can't really spend the kind of money that it's going to take to bring in a Malik Willis. You won't be able to eat the contract of a Kyler Murray, so on and so forth. So what else are your realistic options? Okay.
Draft offensive tackle?
You could overdraft a quarterback in this draft, which, the best overdraft in my opinion is Ty Simpson, but he's banged up, only a 1-year starter. So that's kind of a roll of the dice instead of actually picking up a player that for sure will kind of fit in this offense, maybe like a Caleb Lomu, the guy
great
from
tackle.
Yeah, the guy from Miami, Francis.
You get some 2 first-round picks. You got options here.
Yeah. You have options. So realistically, the QB competition is going to be Shedeur Sanders and Deshaun Watson. I know everybody's going to moan, groan, and whine about it, but like that's just reality.
That's just funny. That's just so funny.
No, and it sucks because like here's the thing. They could cut him with a post June 1st, but Andrew Berry loves restructuring and they need capital. So they are going to restructure his contract one more time. They are going to add some money in the bank so they can spend and build up this roster offensively. And it's going to be a camp battle. I mean, they might pick up a day 3 quarterback, but like, again, here's their free agency, like just for like guys that for sure like aren't going to be here next year. Conklin, Posick is coming off an injury. They're not going to bring him back and pay him. Batonio is on the last year of his contract. He's probably going to retire. Wyatt Teller, he got benched in a contract year. They're not bringing him back. I would love to have him back, but that's just not the reality. Tevin Jenkins, the guy that they benched Wyatt Teller for, ended up falling flat on his face. Which I thought that he was a good prospect, just injury prone. But his pass protection and communication on the offensive line is flat out garbage. Like especially for him being in the league as long as he has, and he looks completely lost when passing off stunts. That's just not a good thing at all. So like again, they're just going to have to invest so much money, like in free agency and the draft and offensive line. And then on top of that, are you really going to pass up wide receiver talent for a day 3 quarterback for the 3rd year in a row? Probably not. So like, again, realistically looking at the quarterback room, it's going to be Shedeur Sanders, Deshaun Watson, and a camp arm, and they're going to build this offense as best as they can with the draft picks and the capital that they have. And if the quarterbacks fail, then at least it'll be ready, for a supposedly deep, quote unquote. I know we say that every year, the next quarterback class is going to be better. We don't know. So time will tell on that. But that's what we're looking at for the quarterback room. It's sad to say, but I am a guy that lives in reality, and I'm not going to, sit here and lie to people.
And outside of the quarterback room or outside of Myles Garrett, at least on this roster currently, who's someone we should be looking for next season to make the biggest impact in your opinion? Can be offense, can be defense, but who's a name we're not thinking about outside of the, mothership talk of Shedeur Sanders and Deshaun Watson 24/7 on ESPN that we need to know for the Browns?
Harold Fannin Jr. He was my tight end too coming out of the draft. The fact that he was the 5th tight end taken off the board was shocking to me, but I loved it. I was like, oh, you're telling me that we can get a guy that practically plays tight end like wide receiver? oh, he's a little bit undersized. Oh, he doesn't run that fast. Sure. Flip on the tape. What does the tape tell you?
Yeah,
Tape
catches
tells you,
everything.
he's in terms of tight ends, he's 10th in contested catches, 7th in yak, 9th in yards, tied for 8th in TDs, with 3 different QBs and no wide receiver 1 to open up the middle. Like, teams knew that he was getting 10, 12 targets a game, and he was still producing. There were 3 or 4 guys coming to tackle him every play, and he was still producing. So, I think that you shore up the offensive line to get a little bit of a running game going and protect the quarterback, give him time, and give him a wide receiver 1 to open up the middle. Because the biggest problem with the Browns right now is that they have a bunch of options receiving in the middle. You have you have Isaiah Bond in the slot. You have Harold Fannin Jr. Dylan Sampson's great coming out of the backfield. Jerry Jeudy at times is good, but Jerry Judy's more of a route runner and separator. Those are slot guys. You need somebody that can win on the perimeter. You need somebody with a little bit of size that, that if you have a single high safety, can beat the man coverage on the outside. I'm talking to a guy that's seen DJ Moore and a guy that's seen Romeo Doubs, make plays down the sideline. I haven't seen that since Amari Cooper left town, and he hasn't been healthy since, he wasn't even healthy on the Browns because, he was having hip injuries and all that stuff. So that's who I'm looking for next year. Harold Fannin, he had all pro votes this year, which is crazy to think as a rookie. Carson Schwechter did too.
Another dog. That was that was another home run pick.
Oh, absolutely. And it was definitely confusing at first. And then you found out that he was an All-American and it led the FBS in tackles. But it's the reason why I say Harold over Carson is I love Carson. I love him. The fact that he's he's wearing the green dot. He's calling the defense. I love his energy and his leadership. But we do have to be kind of realistic and, put him in the fact of he's also in a great supporting cast as well. He has the best edge rusher on the planet. He's got a damn good DB room with Denzel Ward, Tyson Campbell, and Grant Delpit. So, with Harold Fannin, at some points he was like the only guy, and without the Browns having a run game and somehow finding a way to keep the tight end involved through all that was just crazy to see. I do expect him to take another jump, which is kind of crazy, considering the fact that of like the season that he had. 700 yards out of a tight end for a rookie, that's pretty damn good. So
who has David Njoku in the locker room with him still?
Yes. And that's another part of this, because rumors are now swirling that they're not going to bring him back.
No,
which is very sad.
It's sad, but like you got Harold Fannin. You don't need to pay. You're not paying Fannin, but like get assets for David Njoku. You can offload him, get something because you have other areas that are more important to build.
Well, no, they're just flat out not re-signing him, so he's going to hit the market.
Okay.
Yeah. That's and that's the kind of issue for me because it's like you need and maybe I'm just sounding like an old head, a run the ball enthusiast, if you will, but you need 2 good tight ends. You really do. Because you need to live out of 12 and 13 personnel and under center to help out your quarterback, and for the Browns to do that, they need to have 2 good tight ends. So, while David Njoku has kind of lost a step a little bit, he's still a good red zone target. He can block, and he solidifies the position. Once he leaves, they have to address that. No offense to Blake Whiteheart. I think that he's a tremendous blocker, and he's got good hands, right? They just don't like the tight end room without David Njoku. It's Harold Fannin and everybody else, and that just adds another thing that they're going to have to address in free agency and the draft. And it's like, they got they have 1 billion picks, but it really only feels like they have a few because of how many holes are on offense.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but my point, with the tight ends, like I get it, but if you have one of the dogs at tight ends, you really don't. Think about it. The Packers with Kraft, another tight end doesn't need to exist on the roster if you have Tucker Kraft.
But what happened when Tucker Kraft went down?
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. You can never count or just count on injuries happening or not happening. So, what I'm saying in terms of investing in that position, when you have so much else that you need to invest in and build
Yeah.
up, like the Chiefs with Kelsey, never had to worry about a second tight end. I mean, who else right now in the league? The Cardinals with McBride, they don't have to worry about their second tight end. If they believe Fanning can be that type of guy where they can feed him 10 targets a game, that second tight end would barely even see the field. And then you just can pay a little bit of money to a better blocker, or if you think you got that guy. So that's what I'm saying. I could see the argument that they think Fannin is their version of like what they McBride almost, and they can feed him and live through him like that, where you don't even know another tight end even exists on the roster. But I mean, to segue off that, I mean, either way, I mean, Njoku's a culture guy. He's one of their all-time leading receptions guy. A great presence, right? So, like you said, it'd be sad to lose him either way. But you talked about it. I mean, talk to me about your dream scenario with those first 2 picks in the draft. Do you trade them? Do you run with it? I mean, you said you want a big wide receiver on the perimeter. I'm also need your thoughts on Denzel Boston then out of Washington, because that is like Roma Dunes out there in Chicago. It's somewhat the same guy. So I'm curious to see what you say on this.
Yeah, no. Boston's definitely one of my top guys. And it's a shame because there's a lot of good slot receivers, but again, the Browns are starving for that perimeter guy. Realistically, I look at this draft and there's a lot of defensive talent that I think that some teams might be enticed to jump up for. You have Arvo Reese, you have Bain out of Miami. You got the kid out of Texas Tech. So you have Sonny Styles, Caleb Downs, so on and so forth. So I do think that there is an opportunity for the Browns to trade down. I did a scenario about a month ago on PFF. I was able to trade down from 6 to 9, and I was able to snag another second round pick. So like if they were to trade down, and even if they got just a second round pick out of it, they would have 4 picks in the top 40, which means that you could get
That's nice.
two receiving weapons, whether that be a wide receiver and a tight end or a wide receiver and a wide receiver, and you get your 2 offensive tackles. So it just all, for me, it's best wide receiver and offensive tackle available with each pick. And that's how you have to take it. Because like the need at tackle is just as big as my opinion, for the need of a perimeter wide receiver. So it's just tough. I mean, it's fun because you look at it and you're like, oh, hey, we have options. Like this is great, but at the end of the day, it's like, oh man, it's just tough. It really is.
I like OT receiver. I like OT receiver with those first 2 picks, really a lot.
Yeah, no, and it's really it's really just more or less like what is going to fit what you're doing. Because when I look at the offensive tackle, you have your maulers like Caden Proctor, and Spencer Fano. And then you have a pass blocking guy like Caleb Lomu. What are you doing in free agents? For example, if they were to grab Rasheed Walker, then it would make sense to grab the Francis out of Miami, right? Mm-hmm. Because he's a right tackle. So
it's 6? Yeah, I would love that.
Yeah. So and to me, like he's offensive tackle number 1 in this draft. Mm-hmm. Like he's got everything you need: the base, the quickness. Yep. People talk about his short arms all the time.
He's dominating the play. He's dominating the CFP right now. Dominating.
Do you think Mike Vrabel cares how long Will Campbell's arms are? And
he was rumored great example.
And like, to me, we all get so fascinated with measurables, especially like right during the combine and everything when it's all happening. Jed Wills had perfect measurables. He had elite measurables. His arms were so long. Orlando Brown Jr., son of a legend offensive tackle, had long arms to the point to where he struggled bench press because the bar was going down a mile and a half and coming back up, right? But you look at it and they didn't have quick feet. You look at it and their punch isn't the strongest. You look at it and their motor isn't great. So for me, I always look at the tape, and the tape says that he is the best offensive tackle. And I love the way that he pass blocks. I think he leans forward a little bit. So, careful on that, because you'll be susceptible to a few counter and swim moves. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm looking at offensive tackle and wide receiver. It all kind of depends on, because I'd rather, and let's be honest, the draft it's a crapshoot. You're rolling the dice. It's an educated guess in the first round. Everything outside of that is just a lucky guess. But I think if you're picking between Tyson, Tate, and Francis, you go with the offensive tackle, because the offensive tackle class to me is a bit more shallow than it is at wide receiver. Like, for example, they very well could get Francis at 6, and then come back and get your boy Denzel Boston at 24. So
I like that option too. Or you get one of those two, because Tyson's tape's nuts. If he just can't stay healthy, Tate's a freak. And then you hope in the back end you get, like, maybe, I can't remember his name now, the Texas offensive tackle, blanking on his name, but he's projected to go in the late 20s as well. Projected to be like kind of day one starter type of guy, but again, depending on what they need. Joe, do you have something else before we get into the game?
Oh, I said one more. So I know my Bears are struggling with their stadium process here, and I know the Browns got theirs going for their $2.4 billion stadium for the Browns. But my question is, so the Dog Pound's never hosted a playoff game. They're the only stadium in the NFL that's never hosted a playoff game.
Yeah.
So before 2029, how are you making sure you get one damn playoff game in that environment? What do they got to do?
Well, they already exercised one ghost because Paul DePodesta went back to baseball. So we're guaranteed.
Which is a long time coming.
Yeah. I'm glad that I don't have to sit through another intentional tank. Yeah, that's wonderful. I mean, I think they have a shot in, more than likely, because I do think that next year is going to be, hey, they look a lot better, but they're still 1 year away. So I think their ceiling next year is like a one and done in the playoffs. If that, realistically, we're probably looking at another 7-8 win season. There's just so many holes, right? But that would be kind of a huge win for Cleveland. Kind of sad to say, but it is what it is. But yeah, no. And it's so funny to me, because they talk about how much money that the Dome is going to bring to Cleveland, all these venues and all this. I encourage these people that say, hey, it's going to bring money to Cleveland. I encourage you, for the 1 in 10 times that the Browns actually make the playoffs, go out that weekend and try to find a seat anywhere. I had to reserve a table at a bar that college kids go to in my area, because that was like the only place where we could legitimately have food and get a seat. It was that packed. Like, we're parking 10 minutes down the street, even though they have a huge lot, because we can't find any place to get in. Like, the city of Cleveland would make more in a weekend if it was a playoff game than they would, giving the stadium to Taylor Swift for a night. Like, that's what a lot of people don't understand. Cleveland loves their sports and loves their football specifically. Like, there are times where, for example, in 2016, right, Cavs, won the champ. Huge 5 million people parade in downtown Cleveland. Like, I remember being there. It was awesome. It was the super great time. The Indians were in the World Series at the time. But yet, when June comes around, everybody wants to talk Browns. Why? Because this is a Brown city. Everybody goes nuts about this team. I go nuts about this team. And like, they don't really have anything to show for it. So it's one of those things to where you don't realize it until you see it unfold in this city, because we are starving for a winning football team. And that's what makes the 2020 year so frustrating, is because we couldn't celebrate with it. You know, we were all like huddled up in, you know, in our homes, like trying to make sure that we didn't catch COVID, and watching our team win in an empty stadium. And all I wanted to do was go watch this team win.
Brutal.
And I couldn't, because the world was on fire. So yeah, it's and I will say this, I hope that the Bears keep it in Chicago. I know that there's talk, and you know, the
Gary,
owner,
Indiana.
yeah, the Gare Bears, you know. But
that's great. Oh, I hope
yeah.
that happens now.
I will say, I don't know who said that to me, but I did steal that from somebody that tweeted at me. So don't give me credit on that one. But yeah, I hope they keep it in Chicago. You know, it's really weird to move a team to the suburbs like that, because in an instant, like it works in Green Bay because the people own the city and it's always been there, right? But like a lot of these owners want to do what Jerry Jones did and move it to the suburbs and just create basically a giant amusement park to where the owner gets all the money. And like that suffers as a fan. You suffer as a fan because all we want to do is tailgate, you know, not get completely assaulted in terms of, you know, our wallets, and see our teams win, you know, but like the dome for Cleveland, it doesn't solve the winning. It has literally nothing to do with the winning, because like the Browns can't even, I
the
love
fans are already there.
Well, I love the weather argument, because it's like, oh, well, like, you know, you get better football in a dome. I've seen the Browns get blown up, like, I've seen them get blown out in a dome. I don't know how many times. You know, the playoff win against the Texans. They played the Saints 2 years ago, and Taysom Hill turned into, you know, the next Lamar Jackson, with how he was just running all over the defense. You know, so it's just really frustrating, because everybody wants a winner, but this owner is pitching us a dome, and it's just like, that's great. And by chance, did you guys see the PSLs, the private seat license that they sent out to season ticket holders? $500 a seat for nosebleeds.
That's brutal. Maybe we get some winning football in there first, huh?
Yeah,
I mean, even then, that's obscene.
Yeah. So so everybody kind of had their own little Twitter riots about that, but yeah,
it's coming for my Bears next. It's
I mean, go ahead, Joey.
No, it's just we have the same thing. We're season ticket holders here, and it's like the PSL, you know, is worthless now because they're going to probably move, and it's tough. And I'm learning to, how do I phrase this? I'm on the camp of like, I think it should be in a dome because I don't want the best athletes in the world to be affected by weather. That's just me right now. 10 years ago, I was the opposite. But
I will. Too. I only saw a couple missed kicks. You know, that sailed right a little bit. Yeah.
But I will tell you, because we got the same email survey with the PSL projections and the new ticketing. My seats, or my family's seats, that we've had for 40 years, will not exist in the new stadium, because
bullshit.
That whole area is corporate club. So you either got to go down, which is, you know, probably triple the cost, or up. And it's like, you know, people talk about the national championship this week, the Super Bowls, and even things like with these new stadiums, it's built for not the diehards and the sponsors and the fans. Like, they mocked up the new Bears mock-up in Arlington in the suburbs, right? They forgot to put parking. And everyone's like, they'll have it, of course, but when they did the big presentation, it's like, where's everybody tailgating? You got 70,000 people coming, and we're all grilling and drinking and doing this stuff from 8 a.m. to close. And they didn't even have that wherewithal to go, oh, right, it's not just the CEO of Kraft that's coming in and sitting in our stadium, or the CEO of whatever. It's the normal people that have been going for years that get screwed.
That make you a successful business, because we come to your game and pay you all of our money that we don't have, and you charge $20 for a beer.
Right.
Yeah, those people. No, those are useless. But let's wrap it up. This is great stuff. I mean, let's finish with our game now that we're starting to play with fans a bit more. It's a keep 3, cut 3, all times Browns edition. You can only keep one player per position: quarterback, running back, receiver. We're not gonna do Jim Brown, no Joe Thomas or anything like that. The obvious legends of the legends, Otto Graham, nothing like this. So let's start with quarterback. First quarterback, cut or keep. Baker Mayfield.
I mean, by default, you kind of have to keep him, right? Because like his seasons in Cleveland were even better statistically than Bernie. I love Bernie, but he was more of a brain than a physical guy. And Baker, I mean, say what you want about Baker, but you give him structure and he can win you a playoff game. So definitely keeping him.
Okay. This one had to get specific. Running backs are kind of limited to guys who have barely been there or not much success. So first running back on the board here, got creative. We're going with 2010 Peyton Hillis.
Is that Madden Peyton Hillis, right?
Madden Peyton Hillis,
and
the
then
one and
he
only
got into
year.
the contract dispute, and then
and
got
never
the
did
flu.
good again.
Yeah,
never
no,
happened.
I remember that. I voted for him so many times on that stupid website, and I got
the Madden vote
that
year. Vote for the cover.
Oh yep. yeah. It was a
simpler
whole thing.
Times.
Yeah. Oh, dude. Yeah. No, it was yeah. I'm gonna say cut. Just because it's like and I love Peyton Hillis. Like he'll be forever be a legend in Cleveland. But he had a psycho head coach, Eric Mangini, that gave him like 30 carries a game. So like the stats are a bit skewed. Hell of a talent, but I think there's probably better running backs on the board.
One of the grittiest runners of the football. Man,
yes.
Cam Scatterboo before there was a Cam Scatterboo. Cam Scatterboo is just modern day Peyton Hillis. So hopefully Browns fans are familiar. I'm kind of interested to see what you're going to do at receiver here. So first one I'm going to throw at you, because again, limited options here. First one I'm going to throw at you, though, is going to be Jarvis Landry.
Keep. Easy.
That's simple.
Easy. That's very simple. I mean, he's the
Josh
best.
Gordon and the potential and what he had those couple years.
Well, my thing with Josh Gordon's the greatest wide receiver that I've ever seen put on a Browns uniform. It's really sad because the narrative, everybody, talks about how, he couldn't stop smoking. But in reality, if you read articles and like looked into it, the guy had a legitimate opioid addiction, right? He himself was even talking about how he was walking around the streets of Florida, and like that was his rock bottom, because he was like, dude, it's like 4 a.m. I'm walking, around in Florida, like looking for my next fix. Like I need to fix something, Yeah. So crazy, sad story. So it's really kind of like weird to see the narrative of like, oh, well, like he was a bum and he just couldn't stop smoking. Like, no,
weed,
yeah. But Jarvis Landry for me, like it wasn't just production, it was leadership, it was the physicality, it was like the fact that I mean the team just rode differently. Like the boat rode differently with Jarvis Landry coming in. And you could tell things like the jump from 2017 to 2018, even before Baker Mayfield like got on the field, you could tell that things were a bit different. People were getting a little scrappy at practice. People were, calling other guys out in the meeting room. He was questioning guys' effort. He was pushing other guys. The whole bless him thing when he was getting into fights
right.
with Money Mitchell at camp, like that was awesome. So like for me, of course, there's always going to be a special place in my heart for Jarvis. I always kind of have this like fantasy in the back of my mind that maybe one day he'll come back and coach, because like those are the kind of like voices that the Browns need in the building, not these like analytic guys that, put on their glasses, right. And, get out the microscope and try to dissect every bit thing. Like they need more leaders, more alphas, more dogs, right?
Mhm.
So definitely keeping Jarvis.
Man, Josh Gordon was fucking cool though.
He was so good.
Josh Gordon was so cool, man. He was awesome. That guy was. It was just Julio Jones, just another Julio Jones. He was way too big, way too fast. Just an electric factory on the football field. That I would. One of those guys you just wish you would have been able to see that whole career play out. But I cannot blame you. Jarvis Landry was also always a dog. He was awesome. But all right, so you've kept Baker, you've kept Jarvis, so that means you're cutting Bernie Kosar, which that was tough. You've cut Josh Gordon, you've cut Peyton Hillis. So running back, we got to start filling this gap here. Nick Chubb, running back,
easy, the greatest running back I've ever seen run the football, and and I'm talking about across the entire league. Like he had a gear that you would see out of a smaller running back, but he had the stiff arm of a fullback. Like I watched him dribble human beings off the turf, and it was just something I've never seen before. And it's like he had everything that you wanted. He had the vision, he had the power, he had the breakaway speed, he had and the fact that he wasn't flashy, when he got
no
that
gloves.
extension. Yeah, no, he was a no glove, no sleeve kind of guy. And I remember when he was going to get extended, and I was young and immature at the time, and my whole thought is who cares about the cap? Just pay him whatever he wants. The fact that he had the seasons that he did with the least amount of carries, he was averaging 5 yards a carry for 5 straight seasons. The fact that he only asked for $12 million a year is insane, is absolutely insane, because he was the kind of guy that deserved twice as that, and the way that he came to work and would I've never met a Browns fan that didn't like Nick Chubb. I know that there's people with negative opinions, about him now that he's lost a step, and frankly, the injury does suck. I remember exactly where I was.
Yeah, goes back to college too.
Yeah, it was that same knee that he tore, in Pittsburgh, and him. I mean, it's crazy now because I'm looking at it, and now I have Baker, Landry, and Chubb, and now all I'm thinking about is just the run that group had, from 2018 to 2021, and it didn't end how we all wanted it to, but at the height of it, and this offense, it was just something that we definitely took for granted,
Yeah, everybody knows that Baker should never have been allowed out of that building. I mean, that part's extremely clear now. They finally found something that could be it, and they let him walk. Well, I mean, that they had it. They had it. I'm so sad that he was not retained there. All right, as we wrap it up, really quick, what are your thoughts on Joe Schobert? He played football in the high school I played, in the conference I played high school in. Our teams play each other all the time. And he was a Pro Bowler with the Browns, kind of around that era, 2017 or 18, something like that. But I don't know. Did he always get a bad rap? Because he always had 180 tackles a season, but was bouncing around the league. Was he just a guy who made tackles 8 yards down the field type of guy?
Yes and no. His biggest problem is that he had the brains and the personality of a middle linebacker, but he had the body of an outside linebacker 4-3, if that makes any sense. He was very undersized playing the Mike linebacker. I would say he was probably the same frame that JOK was, but he didn't have the speed and the power, so to speak. But he was one of those guys to where when they let go, I understand why they didn't want to pay him, but at the same time, he was a leader. He was a great tackler. I mean, say what you want, but he didn't miss tackles, right?
Yeah.
He made the play when he needed to. So, and he was a great linebacker, on several bad Browns teams.
That's what I'm saying. I was surprised how much he bounced around his career. He wasn't converted running back, played a lot of running back in high school. That's pretty much what he played in running back. I think he got recruited to Wisconsin as a running back, transitioned over to defense. Obviously became a middle linebacker. So makes sense on the size front. He was God, ran over everybody in high school. All right, Mac. Appreciate all the time talking Browns. I mean, this is why we do. I knew not even close to this much about the Browns. So appreciate the wealth of knowledge on the Brownies, who we all know nationally did not get enough coverage, unless it's talking about Shador and people trying to rip that whole thing. So appreciate you doing that. Where can the folks find you and everything you're doing to talk about the Browns?
So I do write a little bit for Dog Pound Daily. Most of my content though is on social media. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. It's all under that same name, THA_Buffalo. So find me there. I'm posting every day. And I try to engage and interact with as many people as I can, because this is, while I do treat it a little bit like a job, it is fun. And like, this is stuff that I really enjoy, is like talking to fans from other fan bases. My brother-in-law is a Green Bay Packers fan, so I always love chatting it up with him. And I love seeing Bears fans out in the wild, because like that, I'm telling you, Browns fans want to be you, right? To find that quarterback, to have that coach that not only is a genius, but like is the kind of guy that is going to be cussing in the locker room, getting everybody fired up. So it was a great win, to see you guys. Now Rams coming to town, and my favorite quarterback, Matthew Stafford. So that's going to be one hell of a playoff game. But yeah, no, I appreciate the time today, guys. And, I'm always happy to join on if you guys ever need me.
Sounds good. We appreciate it, Mac. We'll talk soon. Hope your Brownies get it all figured out. And yeah, thanks for doing it, man.
No problem.
All right,
take care, guys.
All right, great stuff with Mac, and man knows his Browns. That's for sure. That's why we do this. But I mean, last thing on that Rams, the Rams game coming with the Bears, like, I really hate that I feel any nerves about this and the Bears potentially winning this game, as much as I don't think they will, because their defense is just so bad and the Rams should run it up. Matt Stafford's hand, that's going to come into play. That very well could come into play. He sprained his throwing hand,
and
it's going to be cold.
And that weather, brutal.
That's what I'm saying, and we saw what happened when he did it. Obviously, at the time of it happening, of course, his play is going to decline, and he goes out and makes the incredible game-winning passing touchdown like it never even happened. So the dude is he's just all true grit. So it shouldn't, but like there's a real chance it plays a factor, and if he is forced to leave that game, I think it's over. I'm nervous, and he's not been great outside the dome as good as he's been. I'm nervous, man, and it's only the injury that's caused me concern, because the slightest thing happens. I mean, it could end up being like the Bears-Packers. If something happens with Stafford, there could be enough cuts that keep the Bears around and allow them to take advantage of, those small cuts and just chipping away at it. So I'm nervous, and I hate to say that, but I'm sure you're probably feeling good on it. Yeah,
I'm confident, but it's scary. It's the Rams are. If this game's in a dome, right? The Rams are the number one team in this tournament right now. I know not in the seed, but on paper, offensively. So it's like, this is going to be an interesting challenge. And as much as I want to beat the Rams and don't like the Lions, I love Matt Stafford. I think he's awesome. The best thing is, Caleb Williams loves Matt Stafford. Like, that's the cool thing, is like that's his model. It was like Aaron Rodgers and Matt Stafford. Now he's got a chance to go against him, but they're never out of it. So we'll see. The Bears need to have a game like they did in San Francisco, where even though they lost, you're playing
score 35.
Right. You have to. You can't. They're not going to be able to hold this team down to 16, 20 points, what have you. So you have to score. So it's going to be rocking.
They're going to need that O-line to come through and block their ass off on the Rams defensive front. So
losing their left tackle kills you.
Yeah, that's going to be tough. You got Brian Young coming off the edge. He's a freaking mean machine coming off the edge. But all right, man, let's get into the news desk. What do we got this week?
All right. Well, it is, even though we were talking about playoffs, everyone else is dealing with Black Monday and the coaching carousel. So we talked about Harbaugh a little while back on one of our last shows. This time now, the field goal meme, Tomlin gets fired or Harbaugh gets fired. Well, Harbaugh went first. And now we got Mike Tomlin stepping down as the Steelers head coach after 19 seasons without a losing record, which is insane. One Super Bowl win, 13 playoff appearances, over 190 wins as a coach, never finished below 500. So these are some pretty big shoes to fill. But what are we thinking is next for him and for Pittsburgh? And the last stat I love in this, which is unheard of, is that they've only had 3 coaches in Pittsburgh since 1969. So the next coach will be the 4th coach since 69 versus all of our teams that have a zillion coaches since then. It's insane, the stability in that city, in that team, in that organization.
And only it fits Pittsburgh perfect. Like that fits that city, those people, like that is it. Like just grit everywhere. Someone who's just going to a staple. I mean, just fits that franchise. So, I mean, for him, right? For Tomlin, you got to think he's doing the Sean Payton route.
Oh, yeah.
You know, if he's going to step away, go take a job on the TV station, chilling out Max, relaxing, all cooling, shooting some b-ball outside of the schooling, picking up a bag. Yeah, just picking up a bag on the TV for a year, come back and be one of the top names on the market. I mean, could that happen? Maybe. Well, team still has to trade for him, right? Like Sean Payton, maybe not a first rounder, but so that is something that will come into play most likely. So I think that's what he does. In Pittsburgh, that's a tougher situation though. They don't have a quarterback. I mean, even if Rodgers were to be their quarterback next year, we're talking about an even older Rodgers who still had moments, but definitely declined this year, right? None of the staff was retained unless a new coach wants to retain him, but they were told, go pursue a job elsewhere. And then they have an one of the most expensive defenses that's underperforming. Like, so the defensive side's not good. You don't really have a quarterback. You don't have a quarterback at all, really, shoot. So it's not really an attractive situation for them. And, apparently Rodgers was like crying when they told him Tomlin was gone, which, wouldn't surprise me. Even if it's not true, like it wouldn't surprise me. Like I feel like their personalities meshed well.
Yeah. And I think Rodgers knows that if Tomlin's gone, he's probably done.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Yeah. And yep. And those guys probably had a great relationship with a ton of respect back and forth, like both ways. So, and yeah, the new regime's not going to want a 41-year-old, 42-year-old, just an old ass man, who's obviously declining still, awareness is out the door, like insane, and can still make some great throws, but it's obviously declining. So I'm a little bit more concerned about that one. So like we had talked about a little bit, some names that came up, Chris Shula, Brian Flores, and Mike McCarthy are right now the 3 favorites on Kelce for the job, the Steelers. They did request Rams passing coordinator Nate Shields-Hosh. This is the other guy I was talking about. I think it's my guy. Yeah. Is it Shieldhouse?
Quarterback and Nathan Shieldhouse. Yep.
Shieldhouse. Okay, there we go. So Rams fans apparently really don't want to lose this guy. Like I said, he's their pass game coordinator right now. He's, again, one of those other, like Grant Udinski. He's one of those rising young stars. But if you look at his time at Iowa State in 2023, they were number 2 in the nation in red zone scoring. They increased their points per game 6 points when he took over. They led the nation with 11 offensive touchdowns of 50-plus yards. And obviously that's a year Jaden Higgins and Jalen Noel, rookies in the NFL this year. Jaden Higgins balling out at the Texans. Like they were killing it in his offense. And now he's been 2 years under Sean McVay. So I think, again, he's one of those guys that we just talked about with Mac. Like he still never called an offense. I mean, let's be clear.
That's a big deal.
Yeah. And if you're going to hire him as your head coach, that seems a little too risky. Like he should definitely find an actual true OC role first. But it's still like, even these names just even coming up, it feels like a true changing of the guard in the NFL from older head coaches. Like we're seeing a 30-year-old, a 35-year-old. LaFleur was really young when he got hired. All these young dudes taking the league by storm as head coaches, even GMs like James Gladstone in Jacksonville. So that's a whole thing. And obviously now it's sad, the Harbaugh Steelers or Tomlin Steelers, Harbaugh's Ravens, that rivalry finally ends. It ends in the same year as, which is crazy. Yeah, one of the most epic eras of Steeler Ravens rivalries maybe ever, perhaps, with era of just a gritty series. Lots of one scores games that come down to like the field goal. I think the Steelers have the all-time record, like by 23-17 in the head-to-head between Harbaugh and Tomlin. So great series coming to end. I don't know. I think you got to go. You say what you want about Brian Flores. Everyone always got an opinion on Brian Flores. Mike McCarthy, this is another one of those spots. We've talked about McCarthy to like the Titans and the Giants, but like a team that like we talked about Mac, is a team that needs to get a quarterback or they need to get right at quarterback. Go get a guy who knows it. Go get a guy who can call an offense like McCarthy can, even if it's not, considered like the most revolutionary new generation offense. Like he's great with quarterbacks. He's got an incredible track record of developing quarterbacks and working with them. So that's a huge win. He's got the playoff Super Bowl, history and track record again. And so I think I see that one for sure. Chris Shula, another guy, makes a lot of sense. I don't know if you had a favorite for this job, but I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Yeah, go ahead. No, I'm good.
This is the one job. I know I've been on the anti-Mike McCarthy train the entire time we've talked about it. This is the one job I think fits him. I feel
He's a
like
Pittsburgh guy.
Yeah, and I feel like it just with the Rooney, like it feels like that's the kind of coach they want, to where, yes, they took a risk with Tomlin a long time ago and it worked, but I feel like they're so used to their stability that they want a guy that's proven that can come in and keep that going, that can be there when they turn it around again and have their quarterback. He can bring in a staff that brings in a young OC, so when he retires, he can pass the baton over to the next guy. It just kind of seems like, in my opinion, the only real fit, because like a Tennessee is too much of a project, and the Ravens, I don't see him there because they want to win now with Jackson. I feel like McCarthy can restabilize this ship, and if they find a quarterback, he's the guy to build it with a young offensive staff.
Yeah, he literally born in Pittsburgh, grew up in Pittsburgh, like outside the city. Like from a fan buying in perspective, he's a hometown guy.
Yeah,
and he's had a lot of success. He beat Tomlin in the Super Bowl, right? I mean, there is that, but like he's a hometown guy. I know people are always going to feel a way about McCarthy and his game management and all of that. Obviously, we talked about it in the past, but he was there in Dallas putting up results when a very, very toxic Jerry Jones situation going on. So like you take that away, I mean. And Steelers are a stable organization. I think there would be instant buy-in from the fan base. They'll have their qualms, but I think it'd be a really smart hire. Get on track. Like we said, 3 to 5 year guy. He's going to bring in an OC who can call the plays or be, like you said, come in, take over the throne. I love that hire for them. We'll see if they do it. I think it'd be easy for them. An easy win. And it's still a smart hire. Guy who knows what he's doing. Sits back and watching. All right, what's next?
On the flip side, John Harbaugh is now pretty much as close to a done deal as you can get before it's announced, to be the new coach of the New York Giants. A very interesting spot for him. It's an organization that has obviously had their Super Bowls, but has had really tough times in recent history, and they've bungled GMs and coaches and quarterbacks to where now the Jackson Dart era is here. And it looks like Harbaugh is going to be the guy to reignite that team and that fan base. What are we thinking? I know it's not official, but when it becomes official about this marriage between John Harbaugh and the New York Football Giants.
I mean, look, first, everyone's always, you got all these fans out there. It's like, well, the Ravens fans who lost him, like, oh, well, he hasn't won a Super Bowl since 2012. In which I brought it up. Like, the guy has not won shit in the playoffs in a long, long time. He doesn't call plays. And there's a lot of back and forth too. Like people say, well, the culture and getting the guys with the right mentality is like, you can say a lot of things both ways on that when it's time, especially in these later years in Baltimore, to go, pro and con to that. So you're getting a lot of experience. You're getting a guy who knows what he's doing, has been around the business, obviously an intelligent, really good coach, just constant winner. But again, not calling the plays. There's a lot of things that still kind of have red flags about. You're going to have to nail the OC hire. You do have Jackson Dart to work with, but like you need to hire an OC. You need to hire a DC. Now you got the freaking Giants front office to have to deal with. And, Joe Schoen, not really beloved too much in New York. If John Harbaugh wants to bring his own GM, I think you can find a way to make that happen. And so I don't know. I mean, I think there was better coaches to pair with Jackson Dart personally and that offense. But if they get the OC right, which is a very real chance they will, because, he does, I don't know. I don't know. I think
John Harbaugh and Mike McDaniel.
I think where I'm worried is him bringing, it could work, but I'm worried he's going to bring in Greg Roman. I saw a rumor he could potentially bring back.
That's his guy.
It's his guy from Baltimore. He was there for the Lamar Jackson MVP era, but then everything else, I mean, ask a Chargers fan, look away. So I'm worried he would lean in a Greg Roman as the OC and what that would mean. but there was definitely worse hires that the Giants could make. I also think maybe there was better. I think you have to do a lot more than if you would have brought in a Mike McCarthy or something. But the Giants seem dead set on Harbaugh from day one. So ultimately, they got their guy. They're happy. They got their guy. This was the one. I wonder what Lamar Jackson would say about it. That's what I wonder. What do you think about it?
I like it from a stability standpoint, but it seems too safe. Like, as much as I said in Pittsburgh that McCarthy marriage works as stability, the Giants are in a position where they seem to have the quarterback, and you need the offensive guy to grow with them for the next decade. And I don't know if Harbaugh is really that guy. He's a phenomenal coach, but for where the game's going, you need a Ben Johnson type guy that can grow with your quarterback. That's a marriage that lasts. And so I think he'll bring in some stability. I just don't know if it's the right fit for what they're trying to do. I always get scared with these retreads because of when the Bears hired John Fox years ago, and it was like, oh wow, guy that's gone to Super Bowl, built winners in Carolina and Denver and all these, and it's like he came in here, they were terrible, but it reset the culture in a weird way that they needed, but they never won anything. So it was like you got this big name, I'm not going to say Hall of Fame coach, but a pretty damn good coach, well known, good at culture, and it didn't really work. Then after that, they went to the playoffs with Nagy, and the rest is history. But it's those kind of guys that how many times can they get retread in this cycle to where they're just not the right pairing in a new NFL. And if you're a fan base and you're trying to be sold on a coach that had a quarterback that was the MVP of the league and they never won, that's a tough sell as good as he is. It's like with Sean McDermott, right? If the Bills don't win this year and whatever happens in Buffalo and you're in Arizona and you go, we're bringing in Sean McDermott, you go, well, he had Josh Allen. That's awesome. But wait, they never won anything. How will they win here when you had the MVP of the league as your quarterback and you couldn't get over the hump? I know Mahomes got in the way, but that's the mindset I think that sometimes happens with these guys.
Yeah, I messed up. It's not Greg Roman. I meant Todd Monken. That's my bad. He's bringing Todd Monken with him allegedly to New York. So that's my mistake. But same thing. He had a huge part in Lamar becoming a better passer. But at the same point, man, if you watch the Giants or the Ravens throughout the season, and there's enough Ravens fans out there that would say, if you want that pairing, go ahead. Go ahead. Like we seen Derrick Henry sit on the sidelines in the fourth quarter in close games. We've seen this offense, like granted they don't have the greatest weapons. We've seen this offense not be good enough too often this past year. So, I mean, it's an improvement. They got a guy who has won a Super Bowl. They got a guy who's always in the playoffs. They got a guy who, I don't think it's the best possible pairing with Jackson Dart, but at the same point, the benefits with Lamar is like he really let just Lamar be himself and the type of quarterback that he, was always destined to be, and not try to change him. And he leaned into his strengths as a quarterback. So I think there's things that's going to work with Dart that, Harbaugh will be good for. I think it's a good culture hire. I'm intrigued. I'm very intrigued. It was an improvement for the Giants. I'll give them that. I wouldn't love to see them run the exact same offensive situation the Ravens just had. I think that would be terrifying for them if I was a fan. There's enough out there, but it's all right. It's all right. Good hire. Good alleged hire. Yeah. All right. What else?
All right. Then we're switching to risky coaches here. 30-year-old head coach candidate Grant Udinski making the news for his extremely rapid rise. Really only 3 years of, big boy coaching under his belt. He's been an OC, assistant QB coach, has had some success, of course, developing quarterbacks in the Vikings with Darnold. But is this the kind of guy that's ready for that next stage? Or is he still in that category of he's really got to keep making his own as an OC before he's ready for that jump? I feel like this is a kind of coach, I know we talked about this with Mac a little bit, but that the Browns would take that chance on, or the Bears would have taken that chance on in the past, where it's a cheap hire for the hope that they're the good offensive mind, and you just don't know if it'll work.
It's interesting. He's currently the favorite to be the Browns coach. I mean, Browns fans seem excited by the potential chance to get him. Like you said, like helping with the Vikings for that offense that they had in 2024. He was the assistant OC, and then with Sam Darnold being there and helping, being the quarterback guy, the assistant quarterback guy. But again, another guy here, never called plays. He's never been an OC. Like there's still so many unknowns here. He's 30 years old. Again, like you said, he's had his big boy pants on for 3 years now. And even then, he hasn't even strapped up his laces yet. So
he's in Velcro, man.
He's still in the Velcro shoes. So it seems so risky. Grant Udinski, it sounds like a Browns head coach. I'll give him that.
It does.
It sounds like one. I did see one fan, like I said, there's a sentiment of being positive around it because, you think of, all right, we're taking a big bet on this high ceiling potential guy, which again, like you don't know that for sure because again, he is not assistant. He is, they give him credit for Trevor Lawrence and Sam Darnold in the offense, but there's still an OC and primary guys who he's been behind who, arguably speaking, have as important or more important roles in the things he gets also attributed success for. I did see one Browns fan say, it would be like swinging for a home run with the bases loaded, 1 out, down 2 runs, could be the thing that changes everything, or could hit into a double play and piss everyone off.
Yeah,
I think that was perfect analogy. Perfect analogy. So, look, Browns will need someone who's going to be good with quarterbacks, no matter who it is. And, he does have that at least. That's his background with Trevor Lawrence. We saw Trevor Lawrence, obviously. He was the Jags OC, but what I meant by that in the sense of you got Liam Cohen doing the real heavy lifting. We all know it's like hiring the OC from the Rams. We all know who's doing the heavy lifting, who's doing the play calling. As much as you do have a part of that success, and Jags 2025, we don't talk about Udinski, we talk about Cohen.
Right. It's like the Bears. They're like, we're gonna poach the Bears staff from Ben Johnson's team. Like, okay, well, the offensive coordinator here is a guy by the name of Declan Doyle, who doesn't call plays. He's a smart guy. I'm not discrediting, but he's 28 years old and doesn't call plays.
Yeah,
they're like, oh, well, everyone's gonna be clamoring. I go, it's no business being a head coach. He hasn't even been a real offensive coordinator yet because Ben Johnson's calling the plays.
Exactly.
So that's too big of a risk. And it's 5 years, sure. But these guys get tied to these trees, these coaching trees, without the experience, and it blows up more times than it works.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, being Jags OC in 2025 is a nice thing on the resume, seeing how it went. But again, you're not calling the plays, man. Like you said, that's what I mean. Like you haven't been like a true OC to where like, yep, we're ready to hand you the keys of the kingdom, let you call the plays for the first time in your career type of thing. It seems risky, but at the same point, again, he's 30, but like no wife, no family. This dude's all ball right now. He's locked in. So, that's a positive. And like I said, he's at least good with quarterbacks, and they're going to have to get that figured out. But it seems so risky. If you're the Browns, for the love of Pete, just need something to go right. I love the analogy. There's nothing much more to say on it besides that analogy was perfect about the home swinging for a grand slam. It's going to be a grand slam, or you're rolling into double play in the World Series. It's over. But yeah. All right. We're going to wrap it up there at another episode of Chalk Talk Social. We got the national championship coming up next week, so make sure to listen. We're going to recap that a little bit on our first episode on the turnaround next week. So that's going to be something. Joe, you got a quick prediction who's winning that one?
How could you not bet against Indiana? Bet for Indiana here? Like they're unstoppable. Now it is a Miami home game, weirdly, but Indiana is unreal. I was literally out today at a doctor's appointment, and the woman next to me went to Indiana. She's like, I'm not even worried about Monday. Like, it's a shoo-in we're going to win. Like, that's the confidence in Cignetti right now, this fan base. For a fan base that's never been there, that's how dominant they've been. So I think I have to go with Indiana, but you never know.
Yeah, I don't think there's an Indiana football fan who ever thought they were going to say, yeah, we're shooing to win the national championship. Not words that would ever think would come out their mouth. crazy. But I'm going with the Hoosiers myself. Everything's going too perfectly right. I think Miami's going to give them hell in the trenches. Really going to give them hell, and really they might force Mendoza to get a little uncomfortable. But man, it just seems like the more Mendoza plays, the better it keeps getting. It doesn't matter who he's playing against. So I sure as hell am not betting against Kurt Cignetti. Hell no, sirree. But all right, sounds like we're both on that Hoosiers train. Until next weekend, y'all have a good weekend. We'll see you.